What is happening, everyone, and welcome to the party. In this current climate, everything is looking a bit dim. UFC 249 lifted my spirits just that much to make the long-lasting lockdown a bit easier to deal with. Imagine that, live sport in our time. It just gave me a little taste of what it'll be like when we have a full live sport schedule, even though it might take a little while for that to happen, and it'll most likely be without a live attendance, but I'd kill for that shit. Imagine being in the audience of a sporting event. Gets my heart going. So within all this nonsense, and there being literally no football or any sport other than the UFC to talk about, I thought I'd take some time to look at the SPFL season up until the lockdown measures came into play. The highs and lows of Celtic FC's footballing season of 2019 to 2020. Start of the season, Celtic 7, St Johnstone 0. This was an absolute belter of a beginning for the season, especially for Neil Lennon. Neil Lennon caught a lot of flack for being given the permanent managerial position at Celtic. It was much thought that the Celtic board was kind of giving the easy option. We didn't really have to go out and find anybody, we didn't have to pay any inflated salaries. You get a guy in that's been here for a long time as player and manager, been very successful, but a lot of people saw it as a step back from Brendan Rodgers. Say what you will about the guy, but Brendan Rodgers done a brilliant job, and for it to be going to Neil Lennon seemed like a big step back. And to be honest, and I'll be 100% true with my opinion, I thought it was a step back as well. I remember being on the bus coming back from the Treble Cup final with my dad and looking at Twitter and seeing that Neil Lennon had been given the full-time position. Me and my dad weren't happy at the time about it. We were actually quite upset, thinking that, again, Celtic hadn't really thought about everything that could happen on the end of this. There were tons of great managers out there for it seemed to be for the picking, and I think some of the higher names would quite like the challenge of Celtic in Europe, and also to be written in legends, taking like 9 in a row, 10 in a row. But nonetheless, Celtic 7, St Johnstone 0, brilliant game to start the season, and it really showed what the Celtic team could be capable of under Neil Lennon. The Cluj ties. Now, the away game, we drew 1-1, fair enough. 1-1 away from home in Europe for Celtic is normally a good result. Even against minnow teams, we don't normally do that well. So taking a 1-1 draw off Cluj, who actually showed up to be quite a put together, well balanced and well disciplined side, you can take that fairly well. The worst thing that happened was getting beaten at home by them. Cracking game, but in what world should a team like that be scoring 4 goals at Celtic Park? When Celtic lose, there's not many times that me and my dad will text each other, but when that happened, I remember texting them saying, how did this team beat us? How did this team take 4 goals off us? It was embarrassing. It was really shows just how caught up our players and how caught up the team can get sometimes in those situations. But again, I think a lot of people underestimate Cluj because, well, we'll get into it later on in this video, but they were a good side. I think that's why people don't really harp on about Celtic losing, is because they were very good. They were very good over the 4 times that we played them last year. They've beat some big names as well, and they've done really well in Europe comparative to, we've never heard of them before, so pretty good for them. But again, still embarrassing result for Celtic. Celtic versus Dunfermline. Celtic win 2-1. An edgy extra time win, especially after a Champions League dropout, because the Cluj ties and the original one were for the Champions League qualifiers. This was a tough one to watch, especially because I just had it written all over that Celtic were going to get dumped over. It might not be your opinion, but when I was watching it, I was like, this is going to be one of those games where, like, the fairy tale upset, they actually managed to bring it back. But when Jamesy scored that second goal, oh my goodness, like, thank God. I thought getting beaten off Cluj was bad enough and getting dumped out of the Champions League, but that would have been much worse if we got put by Dunfermline. Dunfermline looked like the put on a good performance as well, so well done to them, but that was scary. The first Old Firm game of the season. Celtic 2, Rangers 0 at Ibrox. The blue side of Glasgow had some jokes after Celtic secured a historic treble at the notion that Neil Lennon was the new permanent manager. That's partly the reason why I say welcome to the party when I introduce my videos and how I would introduce my podcast. The fact that those stupid Huns can't keep their mouth shut, it's amazing. So, first thing, when Neil Lennon was elected permanent manager, they put out a post saying, are you excited for the new season already? Welcome to the party. We're talking about this Old Firm game. He came in all guns a-blazing, came in chatting. From kick-off, Odsonne boots the ball there at half to initiate pressure, and that was pretty much the whole game. Even Johnny Hayes scored. Johnny Hayes scored against the Huns. The goddamn sneaker-loving Irishman. I love that guy. I will explain my love for Johnny Hayes in a separate video at some point. I think we need somebody like that in the team. Not as a main team guy, but I definitely think he's needed. The thing that I remember most about that match that was hilarious is when Odsonne gets on goal and is 1-to-1 with McGregor, and you could see the Rangers fans in the background with their hands on their head because they knew that Odsonne was going to score. The probability of him not scoring is very, very high. So the fact that he went in and just done it, it's brilliant. So I remember that goal very well. It's just a perfect ball space between McGregor and the floor. Perfect. We're now stepping over into the Europa League group ties. Speaking about Rennes and Cluj first. The group that we got placed in worried a lot of Celtic fans, and rightly so, but we were salivating for revenge against our Romanian foes. First tie away, we draw with Rennes. And as the classic saying goes, if you were give us that result before we played, we would have bit your hand off for it. Even though it sort of changed during the flow of the game because it looked like we could have won and we could have took the 3 points off them. But you can't begrudge an away draw in Europe, especially for Celtic. That's normally a good result for us. Cluj at home is how the qualifying rounds should have been. Complete control and dominance to a 2-0 win. Mohamed El Younusi's first goal as well. Brilliant. Really just showed them that we were the more dominant team. Brilliant game. It should have been like that the first time. And then the hangover. Livingston 2, Celtic 0. Our first loss in the league this season, away to Livingston. Away to Livingston has kind of been our bogey sort of fixture for the last couple of years. I can remember we hadn't scored against them from a field play position in about 3 years or something, or it was a long time. I may be over exaggerating there, but it was a long time. And they really put the metal on us that day. Lyndon Dykes seemed to get the better of Julian. He made a lot of emotionally charged decisions that cost us dearly. That was only his really bad performance to that date, and showed him that he needed to brush up on his mental game and come to these kind of drown out battle type games, especially coming from a European game where it's going to be a bit silkier to rough and drag them about Livingston side. Really well disciplined and put together side. They really put it to us that day. They deserved the win by far that day. Now, coming on to a much better topic, which led to more sadness, Lazio home and away, beating them both 2-1. Serie A contenders against the massive Juventus and Inter Milan. Amazing results. First time winning on Italian ground, and we looked formidable in Europe for once. Didn't it just give us so much hope? Like, do you not remember watching those games and actually thinking we just beat Serie A contenders and we looked good doing it? This looked like it could have been a good season in Europe for us, but it's the hope that kills you. You would have thought beating them would have put us in good stead, but nah. Another high point, beating Aberdeen 4-0 at Pittodrie, 4 goals in the first 20 minutes. Incredible start to that game. Wee Frimpong scoring, just what you want to see after some great results in Europe. Normally you would get a bit of a hangover on the day end. The performances wouldn't be that great, but they came out and they absolutely ran riot over Aberdeen. I remember Scott McKenna looked like he was worth 10 pence in that match. Oh man. Someone said, as me quoted, he looked like a big lumbering pigeon. He really didn't bring much to the game at all, and to think that they were putting a 5 million odd price point on him, or 10 million, or some people were saying like, no danger after that game. The first cup final of the season. Celtic 1, Rangers 0 at Hampden for the League Cup. Pretty much a game we were lucky to win, being honest. But I have a different memory to this compared to what some other people might have you believe. The cup might as well have just been given to Fraser Forster. If it wasn't for him, we would have not won anything that day. The 6'7" giant kept us alive in this final. The Huns were all over us, and it gave us very little hope of a win. It seemed that it was a matter of time before someone managed to beat La Gran Morala. But lo and behold, Odsonne Edouard gets subbed on. Wins the free kick, Christie whips it in, and Big Chris Julian slots it home and performs the greatest knee-side celebration you had ever seen. Even though Odsonne Edouard didn't score in this game, him being subbed on changed the complexion of the game. It really ramped it up. Just after the amazing goal, young Frimpong pulls a shirt and is rightly sent off, and a penalty is awarded, and a penalty is saved. The game is won. Celtic added their 10th trophy in a row. Brilliant watch. A lot of people don't realise though that after that penalty shenanigans and after that whole bit of drama between us scoring and them getting a penalty and getting Frimpong sent off, the game was actually pretty by the number Celtic. I mean, it wasn't like dominant as in we were going to score like 5-10 goals, but it was pretty, like, we could have been 2-0 up. Mikey Johnson was on goal and fluffed it. It could have looked a lot different by the end of the game. After that had happened, the Rangers weren't that dominant over us. It really died down. Odsonne really killed that game and gave them something to think about. The Cluj loss, the only reason I'm really speaking about it is because a lot of youngsters got their European debut. We'd already won the group. That's pretty much all I've got to say about it. We lost 2-0, which is actually like not too bad considering there was a lot of young starts and they actually showed a lot of value in the game, so can't really argue with that result. Pretty good. Last game of the 2019 year, losing 2-1 to the Huns at Celtic Park. This was a bit of a shocker, considering that in the League Cup they had already dominated us in that game, and a lot of Celtic fans were in this mind saying that we were not, the team wouldn't let that happen again. They would give us 110% and they would not let themselves get bullied into that game, much like Rangers aren't being bullied into silence. Same thing happened, pretty much carbon copy. They ran all over us. There's not really much to say about the game that I could actually try and save any Celtic fans. Odsonne looked okay, may have been a bit quiet. The goal we scored was a gift. Definitely was a bit sketch. It was more disappointing to the fact that it looked like they just didn't show up. You can see why the catalyst for probably what happened after the winter break was there, but man, like, Rangers really came at us that day and they deserve to win that. Now, what I'm going to speak about in a bit more depth is the way that Rangers celebrate, man. You think they would have won the Champions League. I can't envision anybody standing up, even Steven Gerrard himself, like, celebrating the way he did is a bit strange. Like, I love the passion in that, but I remember when Rangers beat Celtic for the first time in the top flight. It was doing the beat us 1-0. To be fair, that could have been 4 or 5 now. And like Andy Halliday saying that it's the best day of his life. That dude's got a wife and kids. Like, the happiest day of his life is when he's went to work and beat the rivals. A bit strange there, man. Somebody needs to sort their priorities. That game was the catalyst for the performances that went over the winter break, and this is what a lot of people have been picking up on. When we came back storming from the winter break. We came back from Dubai and we destroyed. In January we won every game. We beat Partick Thistle in the Cup, Kilmarnock, Ross County, St Johnstone. A tough stretch of games to really go through, and we scored 2, 3, 4 goals in each game. I can't remember looking back and being that there were super dominant games and we were on, but they were professional champion games. What you would expect a championship team to do. You know what I mean? Run through teams like that. Tough gauntlet, but not the most impressive teams, but hard to beat that many teams that quick in that row. The one that I'm going to highlight out of that is the February game when we played Hamilton. Now, this showed a really good Hamilton side. They scored first. We beat them 4-1, but they scored first. and they were very, very disciplined. They were very well put together that day, and they were causing us some problems. Their striker was doing some numbers on us. They were doing very well, and it looked like a scrappy, plucky side trying to stay up and fight for everything, and they done brilliant. The first goal that we scored with Odsonne Edwards, brilliant free kick, really took the wind out of their sails, and then going on after it, a really good performance from Celtic to come from that. Didn't lose any heart, they just really piled on the pressure and they got a good result out of it, but getting 4 goals as well. Looking back on that game, you wouldn't think it was like a hard fought fixture, but it definitely was. And I think we were just a bit, when Celtic get on a roll, it's kind of hard to stop them at that level. So when they get on the roll near the end of the game, that's it. They'll probably score another. Lucky they didn't score another 4 or 5, but brilliant game. I really can remember it. The Europa League exit. So very similar to Cluj. We go away. We look dominant. The first half we could have been 3 or 4 goals up, which just seems to be like a story. Our keeper had a good game as well, but again, could have put it away early. We come away with a 1-1 draw. Do you think coming back to Celtic Park that we're going to do great? We get dumped out 3-1. We lose a goal. We get a goal back via penalty. Then they score within 2 minutes and buries the tie. We need to score 2 more, and then you can tell there's a bit of last days ago-ness about it, because after that, like if they scored another goal, we needed to score 2. There was no point, and it got to the point where we needed to score 3. Obviously the game was dead and buried, and that was it. Jozo, I'm terrible at football. I've never even really played, but why did you not just that ball should have been in Rosie? It should have been fucking out of here. But no, I can't think of. I don't want to scapegoat him too much because I think there is a player in there, but man, that was a bad one, and you can see why he was benched for the next game. And maybe one day we'll get a good run in Europe, because I can remember the Seville days. I can remember that entire run, but it's the hope that gets you. We beat Serie A contenders to get put out by Copenhagen. And then the last one I'm going to talk about today, and it's not the last game of the season, which was the same. Well, it's not the full season, but it wasn't the last game that we played against St Mirren. It was the Livingston draw. We went away to Livingston, we went down, and then we came back in the last minute with Tom Rogic scoring an equaliser. Thank God. It was probably the only point where the Huns could have made up some points, and they lost. They still lost, and we drew. It just goes to show we really could have dropped points there. We really were on the edge, and playing for a draw there was the best thing that we could have done. Giving up those 3 points would have been a lot, and it would have took a lot away. Although it wouldn't have happened considering that Rangers lost to Hearts, and then Hamilton and Hearts again, and also Kilmarnock and drew. Hamilton beat them at Ibrox. Amazing. So that's my thoughts on the season that has been crushed due to lockdown. Hopefully you enjoyed some of my rambling speech. If you're interested in hearing any more of me speaking, check out the Greatcast. That's available anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you're interested in any strength coaching or powerlifting coaching, check out Grey Mania Fitness on Facebook and Instagram and just fire a DM. Also on Twitter at GreyMania_. Yeah, thank you very much.